Good morning and happy Thursday. We are new streaming network, WGSN-DB going solo network radio. Welcome to your Health Vibes with Elana. I'm your host, Elana, Wellness Empowerment Coach. And my journey is to raise your heart, body, and soul vibes to the next level so you can transform your life today. And today, I have an amazing guest, and our topic is the power of connection with the one, the only, Alexi. Come on down. I am just so happy you're here. And maybe throughout the podcast, I'll tell a little bit more, but we actually just met yesterday, and I'm just so blessed that you guys get to know Alexi. So, Alexi, can you tell them a little bit about you? Because I got a beautiful connection with you yesterday, and I want the world to know who you are.
Well, I'm the founder of Leave People Better movement, which means every interaction you have with somebody, do you leave them feeling better? And by the same token, do they leave you feeling better? It really makes a huge impact on the rest of your day. So I help people make meaningful human connections so they can be remembered. And I'm also a joy messenger, and that means I inspire audiences with simple, practical ways to build resilience, spread kindness, and make a positive difference, one conversation at a time. And it could be a lot more than just the one conversation. It could be a smile, a hug, a touch. I'm really big on sharing jokes with people because laughter has been shown to promote longevity. It lowers cortisol, raises serotonin and dopamine, and laughter has been shown to promote longevity. So again, it falls into the category of leave people better because we're all going through challenges. And so let's make it a challenge each and every day. Who can you leave feeling better?
I love that so much. Our first connection, I left, my cheeks were hurting after our conversation. We just really connected and had so many similarities. It was so beautiful. And I really, truly needed that laugh. So I love that you say that because showing up, it's exactly what I needed. I was left with laughter, love, finding someone who is a lot like me too. And you guys, Alexi is very funny. And she also sends really, really good clips of other things as well. So thank you for how you show up. Can you go a little deeper? Like maybe where did you grow up? Was this something that's always come? Have you felt like this as a child or did it evolve as an adulthood? I'd love to go a little bit deeper of kind of where some of this came from.
Actually, not through my childhood. I was just sort of an ordinary child, like, not super happy, not depressed or anything like that, just a normal childhood. And then as I sort of got into my teen years, 20 years in that, I made people happy by, I used to make custom cakes, whether it was for your birthday or for an anniversary or a wedding. And I really enjoyed doing that. And then I used to make chocolate Easter bunnies because that
Ooh.
brings joy to people's lives on Christmas morning, and everybody loves chocolate. And then it sort of just evolved over time. And I used to work as a chef. I used to freelance, and I used to work at remote fishing lodges in the summer months. And at one particular
Wow.
lodge, I was there for 4 summers. And so 90% of the guests were repeats that are now bringing their grandsons. They've been coming for so long. And so during dinner time, I go out and talk to them. Well, certainly not about fishing. So I started sharing jokes. And so, and so when they saw me the next year, they go, "Oh, Alexi, do you have any jokes?" And so I started accumulating jokes, and I realized that I had the gift to bring joy to people's lives through my joke telling. And so that sort of continued, on my daily, everyday work, even as a chef. And then an unfortunate accident ended my chef career.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, what am I going to do now? Well, I still continued with the jokes because it really brought me joy to hear other people laugh. And you never know how you will impact another person's life. And because of my loss of income, I moved 6 times in one year. but I kept on
Wow.
with the jokes. And, resilience came into play.
Mhm.
And, I just, it was innate, little tricks that I used to do to help people, put a little cheer in their hearts. And everybody has those tools. We just have forgotten about them. And it just sort of has evolved. And now my biggie is to bring joy to people's lives because we all need a little bit of lift me up, a joy, a smile, a hug, a compliment, a phone call, a physical card. There's so many little things you can do just to add a little joy to everybody's life. And everybody loves a joke. And you never know how far the impact of a joke will go.
I totally agree with you, and that's why I love it, and that's why I feel that we connect and you see me too. I love to hug someone. I love to give a stranger a compliment. I love, just interaction of it really is the power of connection. Just like us, having this situation, never meeting, and the fact that you are willing to show up for me and never have met me means the world to me. And I feel like we had such a powerful connection that we were able to see each other and just so appreciative of what you definitely left me a better person by after our conversation.
Well, thank you for that. And it's all about sharing. You
Mhm.
make the other person feel better. So, maybe they in turn will do likewise,
Right.
because when you feel a little uplifted, you can't help but want to share. And maybe, your neighbor or your family member will go, "You look so happy today. You're cheerful. What's going on?" The ripple effect.
It really is. Sometimes my husband, so I have this group of ladies that I go to lunch with, and I'm always so happy before I go. He's like, Elena, you're just in the best mood. And then I come home and he's like, you should go to lunch with him every day, just like of how you're lifted and what it does and just being around people, because you can give it back and it's that ripple effect. Or you tell one person, I like this about them. We kind of talked about something too, is like going deeper and kind of like looking at someone and more a surface level than just kind of how are you doing, leaving them with something more than just how they are, you know and asking, sometimes for help, or sometimes we're feeling this way and we need that joy. Have you ever been a place where you wanted to ask for that help, where you needed that joy? Is this a reason why you do it, is so that no one ever feels alone or whatnot? How is it asking help for you, and maybe you can coach others when we need that extra support?
Well, I'll ask a stranger for a hug. I don't have any qualms about that
Yeah.
because they benefit as well.
Hmm.
And when I share a joke with somebody and I see their chuckle, their belly laugh, their smile, um, and they'll, not always, but somebody will say, "Oh, thank you, I needed that." It just so feeds my soul, because you never know. Like for example, when I'm going into a store and somebody holds the door open for me, I always, besides saying thank you, I'll say, "Is your mother still alive?" And most times they'll say yes. And I'll say, "Well, tell her she's done a good job." They smile. When the mother gets the message, she smiles. And who knows what kind of day she is having? It may have a really big impact on her for whatever reason. So it's always through the ripple effect. You never know how that joyous moment, that kind compliment, that hug will impact not just the immediate person, but somebody else down the road. Like for example, my favorite story or experience is some years ago, I lived in a high rise and I used to take my dogs across the street to the park.
Hmm.
I befriended a young man standing on the corner having a cigarette. He was from the Philippines. He had come to look after his brother who had cancer and take him to doctor's appointments, etc. And so we would exchange a few words, talk for 10 minutes, and I'd see him every few weeks. And then one day he said to me that his brother had passed, and would I come to the funeral prayer circle in a few weeks down at the funeral home? And I said, yes, absolutely.
Mm.
And so when I arrived, there were about 30 Filipino women kneeling in the chapel. I made my way up to my friend. He took me up to the casket. I had never met his brother. He explained that they were waiting to finalize plans to ship the body and the casket back to the Philippines for burial so their mother could be there. We exchanged a few words. I left. Life went on. Some weeks later, a young Filipino woman approaches me and she says, "Were you at so and so's funeral prayer circle a few weeks ago?" I said, "Yes, I was." She says, "You have no idea how your presence impacted our community." I tell you, it's something I'll take to the grave with me. I was paying respects to my friend, and I impacted so many more people. So it's the same way when you do an act of kindness, it doesn't have to be a joke. You never
Right.
know how it will impact others around, and sometimes you never will. That's not the point. You do it because you want to do it from the kindness of your heart.
I love that you say that because, yeah, it has to be from the kindness of your heart, and that's where I feel you and I connect. We love to show up, to serve others, to make them feel good, and we don't do it for any other reason. I think if you do it for any other reason, then you'll end up resenting and doing. And I love how you just can show up. Have you ever been in your life? Maybe we can explain or something that you've had to overcome. That was something that what's happening with you, or that situation that someone showed up for you, maybe least expect, or having to come over a health issue, or there's so much going on in this world. What is maybe one really big thing that you can share to help others that you've overcome that didn't allow it to take away your joy?
Well, I was diagnosed with cancer almost 30 years ago, and when I got the diagnosis, I knew in my heart of hearts I was going to beat it. I had no idea, but I was. And so I made a few lifestyle changes, and without medical intervention, um, drugs or surgery, I was cancer free in a year's time.
That's
It
amazing.
was my mindset, resilience, some lifestyle changes. So, like the saying, goes, if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're also right. So,
Ooh, can you say that one more time?
if you think you can, you're right. If you think you can't, you're also right.
Boom. Listen to that, audience. Listen
You
to
know,
that.
so you just never know, um, how your mindset can really not just change your life, but change another person's life. And
Definitely.
it's just about the power of believing. A beautiful example is when Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for what was it, like 27 years.
Mhm.
He used to sleep on the concrete floor in his cell, and his bodyguards were really rude and treated him meanly. And he just took it all in stride and was very kind to them. And then eventually they sort of saw his kindness and provided him with a blanket and a pillow at least to sleep on. And then when he was finally released and he was standing at the podium being sworn in as the president of South America, beside him was his new bodyguard, one of the prisoner guards from the prison.
Wow, I just got the chills. I
I
love
know.
stories and I love experiences, and I think that is so beautiful. Maybe we could go back to a little bit of with your cancer diagnosis, because in my community we have a lot of people with that stuff. What is something else that you could tell someone that they can do, or to get through this? It is hard, and sometimes when they're not feeling as joyful and not turning it to a poor me, what can you tell someone going through all of that? I love your attitude. I love there was not a poor me. There was, I am going to beat this. And just, I think the way we talk to ourselves helps out so much. So maybe you could help influence some other um, listeners.
Well, any disease, cancer or otherwise, is caused by external factors, usually lifestyle. The way what you ate, what you slept on, the food you ate, the supplements you took. Do you have a strong community? Do you have strong faith? And so, and we live in a very toxic environment anyway. And so, basically eliminate the toxins in your home that are contributing factors that have been known to cause maybe cancer, maybe heart disease, maybe arthritis, whatever, because they're all, some of it is genetic,
Yeah.
yes, but mostly it's related to your environmental toxins, primarily in your home. So I'm a healthy home inspector as well. And so
Ooh,
I
what is
go into
that?
people, well, you go into people's homes and you tell them where all the toxins are that most people don't realize, like the toiletries you use, the cleaning products you use, what you sleep on. Are you addicted to your EMFs 24/7? Do you take your cell phone or your computer to bed with you, which is a huge no no? And now, to compound the problem, is microplastics. They say that we consume on the average of one credit card of plastic every single day.
Oh, wow.
And little things that people don't realize um, are coated with plastic. Like, for example, your toothbrush. People would never think of it because it's plastic. The bristles
Yeah.
are plastic. A really big one is people that go to the coffee shop and it's given to you in a disposable paper cup that's lined with plastic, and the lid has a little perforation on it where you can flip it so you can drink through the lid. That lid is totally plastic.
Oh, wow.
So little things like that add to the toxic load.
Hmm.
There's a really great website, ewg.org, where they can learn more about the foods, the toiletries, the cleaning products, the breakfast cereals, all the different things that have toxins in it. So I really highly recommend for people to educate yourself.
Now, because you were, a chef and cooking and all that, until you got your diagnosis, did you ever really look at that type of things, or was it more after getting your diagnosis that things have come up, or have you always kind of been into the health of that aspect? Because I think so many times until we actually something happens, we don't realize what we're putting into our bodies.
Well, I wasn't really, didn't have the knowledge, but I was aware I didn't prepare, greasy foods or, that are burnt meat or anything like that. But I did switch from, a traditional chef to, at the time, to a raw food chef because
Mhm.
it was a big movement that had come up from California. And I was living on the West Coast at the time. And so when it's, 40 degrees in the wintertime, you can have, a cool bowl of raw soup. But, when
Right.
I go back to Ontario where it's minus 40, you want a hot bowl.
Yikes.
Yes. So I
Yeah.
switched. So I switched from plant based to vegan.
Yeah.
For myself, I'm probably still 80% raw, but
Mhm.
I'm used to it. And I eat my food at room temperature as opposed to ice cold. So it's just a lifestyle change, and I certainly don't miss anything. I mean, if you gave me a bag of Doritos or hamburger, there's no way, even if you paid me, that I would eat it.
Yeah. I love that. So, I think so much too in our generations, we all come from different generations growing up and doing this and living in joy. You know, what would you tell the younger generation right now? Like, what would up maybe you tell your younger self, that now, or to kind of help with some, everybody, kind of talk about each generation. So let's talk about the younger generation right now.
Well,
Um,
when you're in your 20s, you don't think of what life is going to be like when you're 50, 60, or beyond.
right.
Life just goes on day in and day out. But, pay attention, say, to your parents or your grandparents. How is their health? Because,
Mm-hmm.
their lifestyle habits created the disease or not that they are now experiencing. So start paying attention to what your parents eat, what your grandparents eat, what, health challenges, concerns they may have, because a lot of it is generational. Some of it is
Hmm.
hereditary.
Yeah.
And, just really wake up and think, down the road, I don't know where I'm going to be, but I'm going to take every precaution that I can do now. And
Hmm.
don't get caught up in the latest trends, with food and fast foods and stuff like that. Fast foods are there to make money. They're not there to feed you health. Definitely.
Right. Now, kind of like not switch it up a little bit, but kind of talking about media and life, bringing joy and stuff with these kids these days. I'd say I feel blessed that I didn't have social media.
Mhm.
That would have not brought me joy, because I think we're sitting here to compare. What I really loved was that I got to live in that joy as a child. I got to show up. I got to make those games. I got to be goofy and silly. What can you tell these kids now when everybody's like on their phone and doing, how can they live in joy without all the media, without these things? What are some things that, or just tell people, because I feel we compare and we're wanting to live in this joy, but we have so many things in our faces.
Well, take a point and get to know what your parents' life was like when they were growing up, or your grandparents. What did they do to bring joy into their lives? And, you may not want to give up your social media or texting or being addicted to the cell phone, but make it a point to spend at least 1 hour, if not more, talking to an older person and let them share what brought them joy. And it will really change the way you look at life. And then you can share with your friends. We get so caught up with the latest tech, the latest new this, new that. We're not in touch with ourselves. We're not in touch with our families. I mean, people are complaining that, meals are not a family item anymore. Everybody's on the text and not paying attention.
Right.
You go to a doctor's office, you've got a 3-year-old on an iPad, for crying out loud.
Totally. And I feel like, where's the exploration? It's like, that's what I feel so blessed is I grew up in the 80s. I'm a 1981 baby. I was 45 in October. And I feel like I was telling my parents, I was so happy that that's how we got it. My mom made it a point to have dinner. I was blessed that they were able to have dinner with us. We got to discuss our day. I didn't have a cell phone. I didn't get a cell phone until 1999 when I went away for college. And I feel so fortunate for that. I loved that we got to discuss our day. I love that we were present. I love that I can have eye contact and someone was actually listening to me on that level.
Well, that's just it. We've lost that human touch. You text to make an appointment to call somebody. Just pick up your phone and call them. Send a physical card for no reason, for their birthday, for whatever, instead of texting a card, because everybody likes that physical card between your fingers, that physical touch. We've lost that physical touch. When I take my dogs out for a walk, I never take my cell phone with me. I'm there to enjoy nature, to enjoy my dogs. Why do I have to take my cell phone with me? You see mothers with their strollers on texting. It's just so sad. It's an addiction. That's the bottom line. I would suggest that, decide on a certain age before your child can have a cell phone. Definitely.
Yeah.
Preferably, and then when they, restrict the number of hours they're on it, especially after school. Dinner time is dinner time, not to be on your cell phone. And really just, make it a family activity at least once a week. Just everybody get out and do something, even if it's to go to a movie, without your cell phones. I mean, it's a habit, and people have to make a conscious effort instead of complaining about it. Do something about it.
I love it. Yes, don't complain and do. I feel like that too. I love a handwritten note. I am the type of person who I leave these just intuitive messages, and people are like, how do you know? It's something that I just feel that people need. My language of love is touch. Like all that. I love a hug. I love just knowing that connection. It is the power of connection. Just looking at someone and having that eye contact, where someone's actually present and listening to you, not on the phone, and I really feel that has really gone down the drain.
Right. And then, really connect to older people, people that live alone, people that maybe are not well, and ask them to, share something from their life that they really enjoyed, a good memory, offer them a compliment, a hug, bring a treat, take them out for lunch, take them to grocery shopping. We forget these sort of people that are not mainstream, so to speak, as in older, aged, lonely seniors, especially seniors living in seniors' homes or, self government assisted.
Yeah, assisted living.
They're still human beings, and we sort of ignore them like they're just too old. We can't do anything with them, but they still have feelings and thoughts and are full of many, many memories and lots of love.
I love that you say that. That's why we connect even more. That's why I call myself the intergenerational ambassador, Those are the exact words that I tell everybody is, you know, why do you do that? In other places, other countries, I feel we put them off the pedestal. We put them in these things. And, how would someone feel? Or, I say, sometimes people will say, they're grumpy or this or that. I said, how would you feel if you're mentally with it and you can't use your right arm, but you could have, and this? Of course, you're going to feel that way. Just seeing someone different, showing up, and exactly the loneliness. I'm with the Heart of Ida, a nonprofit for the seniors, and we do so many beautiful things showing up for them. Friendly visitor calls. You can have someone call you every day just to know that there's someone looking after you. We have stuff, but we forget the seniors, and that's why I feel my place on earth is to be that voice for them, to show up because they're forgotten, and we all need some sort of joy, some sort of people, and that's what I love about you, Alexi, is that you bring that joy, you show up that way, and we need more of this.
Yeah, I took a program, Think Yourself Young, that Lynn McTaggart had, and it was about and we would meet in groups online, and one of the assignments was collect movies from the era that you grew up in and songs that you grew up in and share it. And it was like, the old ones that people in in today's generation are not familiar with, but like years ago, like there was Lassie, Leave It to Beaver, Father Knows Best, the Ed Sullivan Show, when the Beatles hit the ground in the United States, Chubby Checker, the Twist, all those kinds of things will bring up memories and put a smile on your face, and share it with your grandchildren, share it with your children, and share the joy and love that you had remembering all that. And through the trickle effect, you can impact them as well.
Definitely. And that shows the power of connection. Just showing that to be able to connect, like us. When you said something, oh my gosh, I did this, so you feel that. I led a meeting yesterday, and I decided to change it up. Normally you talk about your work and this and that. And I said, no, I want to connect. I don't want to hear about your work. I want to hear about you. So I said, tell one of your favorite childhood memories, and then tell like one of your favorite things that you do for yourself. I had women crying. I had women connecting. There were stories about Girl Scouts. 5 women ended up being these Girl Scouts, and they had the funniest stories. They would have never known. They're like, I would have never known. And I said, yes, that's the power of connection. That's the power of sharing your joy, and then seeing that joy for someone else, of the ripple effect of what it is.
That's so true. Just beautiful idea. Absolutely.
Just changing the norm. I think just showing up and knowing that there's a safe spot, knowing that there is joy, and knowing that, it's what you put out there. And that's, part of my show is the vibe. It's I'm not all like, it's your health vibes, but we're not changing you. We're changing the vibe. We're changing the energy and changing how you choose to show up, because, my parents have always taught me, you have a choice in life, how you choose to show up, and that is up to you.
Yeah. And, we've become habitually complaining and blaming. It's just become a habit. First thing in the morning when you wake up, oh, it's raining outside. Oh, I have to take the car into the garage. Oh, I have to do grocery shopping. Instead, oh, another day, I get to make a new friend. I get to share a joke with somebody. I get to be on a podcast, whatever it is. Like for example, this 4-year-old little girl goes with her grandfather for ice cream and cookies on their Sunday afternoon drives. And one Sunday he's sick. And so he asked Grandma to take the little girl. So off the two of them go, come back in a couple hours. She goes running up to Grandpa's room, who's still sick in bed, and he says, how was that? And she says, we didn't see any horses, asses, sons of bitches, or tree huggers. All Grandma did was wave and smile. It was really boring. I mean, it's cute, but already at an early age, she's being taught to look for the negative.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think if we start that at a young age. So this is my sister. Hi, Steffi. Thanks for listening. She says, ooh, I love the connection of movies and music. Thanks, sister. And it's so true. This is my parents, Deb, Rob. They have an account together. They said, this is a fabulous subject, and not really a subject other than based what is going on in this world. We all need a hug, smile, and the simpleness of saying please and thank you. But especially a smile will do wonders for someone. Not much more to say than just do it.
Yes. So true.
And then my dad and mom always say, mom and dad say, try to always follow. You can't afford the luxury of a negative thought.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. You can't afford the negative thought. I like that.
And then also Ellen, yay, says, love this. Thank you for all that you do. I can really read because I get so excited. She says, love this. Thank you for all that you do, both of you. Thank you.
Wow, that's
So
beautiful.
it's really, really beautiful to have people show up this way and know just, have people tell you, thank you for that smile. As what you said, we don't know what anybody's going through. And it's just, I joke too. I said, if you don't want to smile, stick your tongue out at me. Like, do a funny face, because, people just a little smirk, whatever it is to bring that joy. So we're about to wrap up in a little bit. Is there anything else that you would love to tell the world actually, can you tell me that joke about that you told me yesterday for the women about the older you get with dogs?
Oh, okay. All right. The older you get, no, as women get older, they start collecting dogs. It's called menopause.
I love it. Do you have another one that
Yeah,
you could
my favorite is research has shown that 2 minutes of joy has more health benefits than jogging for 20 minutes.
Ooh.
So every day I go to the park and I sit and laugh for 2 minutes as I watch all the joggers go by.
That is so great. Alexi, this has been such a pleasure. Mini pause. Love it. Isn't that so? That's so great. So now I hope people can take this joke and spread this because I sure have. I went and told my mom, I told all the women that I was with, and everyone got such a great chuckle out of this. So thank you, because I know we all needed that. Is there maybe anything else, that one last thought you want to leave, and then maybe tell anybody if they want to reach out, how to connect with you? What is the best way?
Well, I do have a gift for the listeners. It's 10 simple ways to leave someone feeling better. So I just very quickly itemized different things you can do. So I'll send you the link so people can, click on the link and I'll send them the PDF. And it's just very simple things that everybody can do every day. So I really challenge everybody, every single morning when you get up, who can I leave feeling better?
Ooh, I love that,
And
Alexi.
before you go to bed at night, who did I leave feeling better?
Beautiful.
So make a point, at least one person every day. It doesn't take a lot of effort. Little simple things like I suggested: a hug, a compliment, a joke, holding the door open, a hug, a card, a telephone call, sending flowers for no reason, all sorts of little things that we just so take for granted.
Right.
People really appreciate it.
Mm-hmm. I definitely agree with that. Well, this has just been so beautiful. Thank you so much. I, just really appreciate this. Thank you for spreading your love, your joy. And if you guys want, please reach out, and just thank you for being here, and thank you for being present. We'll see you soon. Bye for now.